Victoria Welton, but this is the Conception Diaries. I'm Ross, and I presume if you've been following this, you will know who I am, as you bloody well should know. Vic's asked me to talk a little about my side of the bargain here, my perspective on this, so I'm just going to freewheel and talk a bit about this. Grace is involved in the picture already. I've come into a relationship where the lady, Victoria, has a child, and I've become a stepdad, which was not something I ever thought I would be. I don't think it's something anybody grows up aspiring to be a stepdad, but it's something that I almost find an insulting term now, quite a diminutive term, being a stepdad, because you're either a dad or you're not at the end of the day, and it's that differentiation between father and dad. And some people have this little placard, the old anyone can be a father, but it takes a real man to be a dad. It does ring quite true, I find. And you get guys who have left the nest and left their chicks alone, but still maintain that role as dad, and they do everything they can to make sure the kid is looked after. There's an emotional bond and emotional availability, and all the things that you would hope for in a father. But at the very least, the adults are acting like adults, and they've managed to separate in a way that can then give the kid what the kid needs from those two adults, those two parents. And you get other guys, I guess, who move in and become an active part of that child's life on every day, but still don't do the things that a dad, I feel, should do. They participate, but they don't commit, they don't involve themselves. It never was a conscious effort for me with Grace. It's evolved very naturally. I've always thought of myself as not a kid person, because I think of myself as not a people person, which a lot of people will tell you is not true. So I'm quite good around people.
Sorry.
We're going to wait for a minute while Vicky sorts her life out here. You done?
Hold on, I was cutting it. It was right, when you moved up. It was
Sure.
Right.
Where was I?
Not good around.
Okay. Yeah. So Vic says I am actually quite good around people, but I don't tend to like to be around people. I'm good when you get me there. That's the big challenge, is getting me around them. Grace has never been a chore. Grace has never been, well, she's been a challenge, but having a relationship with Grace as well as Vicky has been something that has been a very natural progression. We were careful in the early stages of our relationship to make sure that we didn't introduce me until we were certain we were going to go somewhere, because what we didn't want was for Grace to be introduced to a man who would then disappear, and then another man who would disappear, that kind of situation, so that she grows up thinking that men are for Christmas and not for life, that kind of deal. I was going to make a Father Christmas gag there, but that would be puerile, so I'll make it anyway. No. Yeah, but the relationship with Grace and I has evolved to be how I could imagine being a father would be, being a dad would be. I treat her like I would treat my own child, not because that's how I feel it should be, that's because she is. I feel she has become my child. I may not have been there at the conception, and if I had been, it would have been really creepy. And I haven't been there. I wasn't there for her first word, I wasn't there for her first step. But I will be there for her first heartbreak, and I will be there for her first proper exam results, and I was there for her first day at school, and I was there for her first dance recital, and a number of other things which are firsts that I can't remember right now, and I won't remember, and she will remind me of as we get older. But I do remember the first time I met her, and I wasn't meant to have met her, and she remembers it too, because we had this conversation the other day, and she can remember that I had come around to spend the evening with Vic, or I had come into the house after she'd gone to bed, because Vic and I had been at rehearsal or a read-through or something artistic and dramatic like that. So we'd done that, and I was having a coffee with Vic in her front room afterwards, and Grace at about 11 o'clock couldn't sleep or had woken up, and at 4 years old she'd wandered through. Vicky, because we discussed this and we were going to withhold the Grace thing, it wasn't a case of, oh, come in, meet this guy. Vic got up, whisked Grace away over the shoulder, sack of spuds, back to the bedroom. But I can still remember as Grace had this little face peering over Vicky's shoulder and looking at me, and I looked up at Grace for the first time ever, and I gave her a little wave, and she contends that she waved back at me, and I contend she didn't. But we both remember that, seeing each other for the first time, which is lovely when you think about that, because really, how many kids can remember the first time they saw their child? Because usually by that point they're too busy with the screaming and getting their cord cut and all that, you know, stuff that gets in the way of really focusing on the moment. Yeah, so Becky's giggling in the background here. So that is where I am in terms of being a father right now, which is probably about 90%, I'd say. But I do still want to be the natural born father, or as close to it as possible. So I want the badge that says Dad on it, and I feel that what we're going through right now with the egg donation thing is the best option. And we've exhausted many other options, we've discussed many other options. We are where we are accepting of that, and no, it's not an ideal world, but at 37 years old I'm old enough and ugly enough to know that it is not an ideal world in which we live, and sometimes you need to make compromises. Vic's been the one to compromise, really, here. Yeah, of course it'd be lovely if we could have had half her DNA, half my DNA, and that would have made that complete, but the fact of the matter is we have a child right now who is 0 of my DNA. And she's so terrifyingly like me that I feel like I should apologise to her, because of some of that crap she comes out with is directly from my lips to the world, and it's marvellous and shameful at the same time, because nobody should have to go through that. But yeah, we are now in that situation where the turnaround is fair play, situation's going to happen, and it will be my DNA. But Vic, at least in this approach, has, and I can't remember what it's called, but the idea is that the genetics, Vic's genetics will seep into this. What's it called? Epigenetics. The idea that even though there are none of Vic's chromosomes going into the egg side of the bargain, then the genetic structure or elements of her genetic makeup will permeate during the 9 months that the kid is baking. I presume it's like a chicken tikka oven. You know, when they do this in Indian restaurants and you bake it in a different oven and it absorbs the flavour of the oven. That's kind of how I see that. I just compared you to an Indian restaurant.
You have.
Is that a problem?
No,
I like curry. Curry's great.
No,
Everybody likes curry. Okay, so yeah, and that is where we've ended up on that one. That yeah, it would be ideal and lovely if we could have got 50-50 DNA genetics. Not going to happen. 2.5 years plus of trying has proved us wrong. Plus also we don't have to worry about the balanced translocation issue that Vic has in her chromosomes anyway, which is probably what has caused a couple of the miscarriages along the way. So that's where we are right now. That was where we ended up at, because yeah, of course I could just say, wash my hands of it. Okay, we've got one child, not mine naturally, but has become mine, kind of like a corporate takeover, very, very gradually. I keep acquiring shares. She is now, as I consider her, my daughter. She calls me her dad. And I'm happy with that. We're both happy with it. It's very comfortable. And it's very exciting. It's quite humbling to be accepted in that role wholeheartedly, the way Grace has done it. It's probably one of the favourite things I've done in my life so far, one of the things I'm most proud of, that I've got right. I've got a few things wrong, but this one I've got mainly right for the most part, as much as any guy gets fathering right. So yeah, I think I'll stop this one here because the card will run out in a minute. And that's the genesis of where we got to and what we're doing moving forward, I guess, and why the Grace thing, I guess, has prepared me a little for what is about to come. But I'll talk more, probably tomorrow when I've changed my t-shirt, about what I expect to come. And then all of you mothers out there can laugh at how completely unprepared I am for this whole thing. See you later.